Hello, it is IARESMART, and welcome to Aurebesh class. We're going to do it as one big thing. You may have seen that I tried doing this as like a shorts thing, then I realized I didn't like that. So instead, I made the decision to do one big long video where I essentially go over the entire alphabet and teach you a little bit more about Aurebesh as a whole, because I think this just works better as a format. So let me tilt this down a bit for you so you can see. So of course here we have some basic writing here. We can see Aurebesh. This is actually Aurebesh written in English writing, and then Aurebesh in actual Aurebesh. Then we have my name, IARESMART. As you can see it here, IARESMART, but in Aurebesh. Now, Galactic Basic is the way of the spoken form of Aurebesh, and you hear this in the Star Wars movies, and it's essentially identical to English. It's just the spoken word. However, this is the written word in the Star Wars world, if you didn't know. So it appears in a few of the movies and in some of the games, and you can see writing, and it actually does translate out into spoken words that we see in the Star Wars movies. So first of all here, we will go through some of them. Actually, we're going to go through all of them. These are the letters that translate directly into English. There are a couple of other letters and symbols I'll go through afterwards. But first off, we're going to start here. So let's see if I can bring this a bit closer for you. There we go. So first, we're going to go on to the first letter. This. Oh, I got to hold so it doesn't move. First, we have Arak. I've covered this before, but we're going to cover it again. So it's Arak, right here. Then we have Besh, Kresh, Dorn, Esk, Forn, I believe it's Grek, and then Hef, Isk, Jenth, Krill, Leth, Mern, Nern, Osk, Perth, Quek, Resh, Senth, Thrill, Usk, Vev, Wesk, Kesh, Yirth, and Zarek. I'm a bit shaky on the pronunciation, so forgive me. However, we don't actually ever hear many of these spoken in Star Wars, and we mainly just see the letters and they're able to translate them. So the letters themselves aren't often spoken. So if you are learning this language, I wouldn't concern yourself too much with the actual name of the letters in the alphabet. I would concern yourself more with actually getting to know how to draw them. So first of all, we have Arak. As you can see, it's kind of a mirror shape, where it has this line and the opposite flipped. Same with Besh, which has kind of like this weird, like basket kind of shape with a line in the middle. Then we have Kresh, which is a line, equal line, and then a line down. Then we have Dorn, which is essentially looks kind of like a 7, just with this line in. And this Dorn can be easily mistaken with Resh, which is just the same thing, just without this line. So it's very important that you distinguish with the line when you're writing this, so you know the difference between Dorn and Resh, because it can be difficult to tell the difference, especially if you're learning for the first time. Esk looks similar to like a V, but with a small T attached to it on the side. To compare it to an English letter, it looks similar to that. Forn has this curved line that comes down and back with a line that goes up like this. Grek goes down, over, off on an angle, comes back, and then goes down a bit. Again, all these little details like these are very important, and they are seen in the movies, and they will help you distinguish between the letters. Herf is kind of like an English H, but just kind of flipped on its side. So you have two parallel lines here, and then a smaller one in the middle. Isk is kind of like a 1. That's essentially what it looks like. It looks like how I draw my 1s, with a little tail on the end. And then Jenth is kind of like similar to a J shape, which it curves up here, but then it comes down and over to the side. Krill is essentially just a backwards C, but more boxy, I guess you would say. Length is similar to an L in English, but instead of going down like this, it goes down and then angles up. Mern, I'm sorry, comes in like this, over like this, and out like this, but this line over here is longer than this line, and it's essentially like you took a trapezoid and just took this half of it off. So you have more of this shape. It's like trapezoid, but you just, because this and this will line up, and they'll be right above each other. Moving downward, we have Nern, which is this curved angle line, which kind of looks like a parentheses line, and then upside down, just more of a point. And then we have Osk, which is actually just a perfect trapezoid. And essentially, if you were to take Osk and cut it in half, that's what this is. I'm really grinding in this idea that it looks like a trapezoid, because most of these are geometrical shapes. There are a few curves here and there, but for the most part, you're dealing with angles and parallel or perpendicular lines. So, next up we go on to pernth, which has this straight up and down, very small line, hard to miss. I mean, sometimes hard to see, but it's easy to miss. I'm sorry. I misspoke. This goes up like this, curves down, goes over here and goes up. And then quek, I think it is, I'm not really sure. Goes up, over, over, over. Fairly simple. Resh, I already explained, is quite similar to dorn, don't mix them up. Seth is actually separated lines with this angled line here, and then more of a V shape. Trill is essentially just a T, but you flip it and angle it up. So it looks similar to like the wings of, say, a TIE fighter. Like you could just put another one on here, and it would look like Darth Vader's TIE fighter, if you're curious. Over here we have Usk, I believe. Kind of goes around like this, and then kind of angles. There's a lot of them which look like just boxes. As you can see, a lot of them are kind of that similar shape, just with a part missing. So it can be very easy to mix those up. So just make sure you study up on those, and get them down. Another one to mix up would be Vev, which essentially is a Y shape. It's quite literally identical. And then similar, like if you go over here, you have the V. When you have Y in Aurebesh, it looks like a V, but like with this little thing attached. So I don't know why they did that for Y and for V, but it's difficult. Wesk is quite literally a rectangle, like perfect rectangle. That's all you got to do. X is just a triangle. That's all there is to it. It's a triangle. Y I already covered, it's a V, but with this little thingy on it, on the one end, on the left-hand side. And Zarek is interesting. It's like, goes up here, but then it goes off a bit, and then comes back and angles back towards this starting point. So, yeah, that's pretty much it. That's the first part of the alphabet. So now we're going to cut to the extra characters and letters. Okay, so these are some more things. I don't really know what to call them, but they're letters that you might see when you're translating, and I figured I might as well cover them anyway, as well as some characters that we'll go over. So first of all, we have Cherek, which is a CH, and it's drawn like this. Kind of a weird shape, that's just how it is, I guess. It's very similar to some of the other ones. Then we have Nth AE, which is a bit more common. I think you'll see that one more often, which is kind of like this. It goes up, up, down, around, back, and then kind of has a line right there. Next we have Oneth, which looks kind of like a Pizza Hut in my opinion. It's an EO. Then we have Krenth, which is KH, which looks kind of like a chair, honestly. Then we have Nern, which is like this line, horizontal line, vertical line, and an angled line, which is NG. I don't know how often you would see that, but maybe it happens more often. Then we have Orinth, which is these kind of like brackets. Essentially, they're like two brackets right next to each other, and that's two O's. Then we have Shen, which is these two dashes, and then they break, and they connect to this other shape, which is just kind of like goes down, then back. So yeah, and that's just SH. Then finally we have TH, which is a complete rectangle with a line, and that's Thesh. So those you might see more often. I figured I'd cover them anyway. I really don't know how often you see them. I don't see them too often, but they do happen once in a while. So, and if you're curious, the rules of usage are a bit unclear because, you know, that people act, you know, the language isn't written too often in Star Wars. We don't have that many examples. So there aren't any really definite rules of usage that we have yet. So it's kind of up in the air. Anyway, first off we have a comma. Moving on to the characters now, by the way. I should have mentioned I'm transitioning. But comma, which is this single small line, only takes up about half of a character, so it only goes... So if you're trying to keep a size scale, it'll only be like up to here. Like it only goes to like half of the characters. Same with period, which is two lines. Question mark shape is pretty similar. Actually, it's just kind of a curve and then goes down around. Just with the dot. Exclamation point is these two angled lines. If you're doing a colon, it's this angle, just kind of like that. And you have a semicolon, which is just simply a straight vertical line. Then we have a dash, which is pretty much just a dash. Instead of being in the middle of the letters, though, it's at the top, at the very top. Next we have quotation marks, which are these little arrows that point down, and they either face that way or this way. Now, depending on like open air closing. Also, we have these, which are simply also apostrophes, but sometimes you have like the quotation marks that are just one in some cases, so you might see those. But they essentially go up like this and just kind of like hook onto the top of the line and then hang down. If that makes sense, I hope this makes sense for you. Then we have an open and close parentheses, which are like these lines, but they point out either way. Because if it's open, it points that way. If it closes, it points that way. And that opens and closes the parentheses. And then we have a forward slash, which kind of goes up and then angled and then back up. And also, as a little bonus, we have the credit sign. So if you want to know how to do the symbol for showing off how many credits you have, obviously you want to flex your Imperial credits and show how much money you have. Here's the credit symbol. So yeah, those are the extra letters and special characters. Alright, so as one final activity to close out the video, I'd like to do a little bit of an exercise. So first off, look at this sentence and try and figure out on your own what it says. Without looking at any guides, just try and figure out, what do you think this says? I'll give you a little bit of time here. Okay, that's long enough. Anyway, so hopefully you took some time to try and figure out what it says without looking up a guide, honestly. So I'm going to go through my process of how I break down sentences in Aurebesh and try to figure them out to put them into English. So first off, I like to look for letters I know very well. So first of all, for me, I know Aurek very well. It's A. It's like the first letter. Pretty well. So A. You see another A here, right here, and you see one more right here. So we got 3 A's that we know of. I also know E pretty well. I would recommend getting your vowels down. So we got A, then we got E. So we got an E here, and another E, where was it? Here, and then one more here. So we're already starting to get part of the sentence in. We got some of that broken down. Now we also are going to go to I. We have an I here, an I here, and an I here. Alright? Now we go on to O. We can see one O right here. This is Osk. Remember, it's the trapezoid shape. And then finally we have U. And we have one U, which might be a little bit hard to recognize, but that is indeed a U. So now we've got our vowels, and we can start figuring things out. Let's go on to the first word. We know that this is an L. It's length. It's just because of the way it is. It's kind of like an L, but flipped. So we know I, L, and E, and then we can figure out that this is actually K. So the first word is like. Second, we know that this is A, and we know that this is actually Dorn, because it has the line here. Don't confuse it with what you see down here a couple of times. I believe, yes, right here and right here, which is actually R. This is Resh. Now, it doesn't have the line like Dorn does. Just make sure you make that distinction. So I have Dorn and Resh, and we already figured that out. So we got D and R. Now this is N, nth. And once we figure that out, we have like and. Alright, let's move on. You might start to get an idea of where this is going. Next we have this. I recognize this is synth, so it's an S. So we have SU, we got that. This is Besh. Obviously we know B. So we got sub, then we got another S. And so we have subs. And then we have C, Kresh. So we have subscribe. We got the R and the I and another Besh and an E. So we have like and subscribe. Then we have a T. We recognize this is a T. Theo, chew. And finally we have my name. You probably saw it because it's up here already. IARESMART. Like and subscribe to IARESMART. Hope you all enjoyed. Hope to do more Aurebesh lessons. And you do have homework, indeed. This is Aurebesh class. I am assigning homework. Your homework for tonight is to complete a 3-page essay written entirely in Aurebesh on why the Empire did nothing wrong. So have fun doing that.